Okay, so picture this scene. You're at a restaurant. It's a nice place, so the lighting is, calibrated to romantic, which is really just code for functionally dark. You pick up the menu, you squint. You pull it closer, nothing. So you do the move.
The trombone.
The trombone. You extend your arm all the way out, stretching as far as it can possibly go, just trying to find that one, sweet spot where appetizers stops looking like a blurry ink blot test.
It's the universal signal for I am over 45.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I want to contrast that frantic moment with something totally different. Imagine that while you're doing the trombone arm, a waiter sets down this heavy earthen pot.
Okay.
It's barely glazed. It smells like wet earth and wood smoke and slow-roasted lamb. It's been sitting in a dying fire for, 5 hours.
And that contrast is exactly where we're living today. We are doing a deep dive into a stack of sources that honestly looks like a mistake.
It really does.
On one side of the desk, we have a breaking FDA approval notification. It's from late January 2026. Very high-tech pharmaceutical chemistry.
And on the other side, we've got this pile of culinary anthropology papers and cookbooks about a technology that is, it's literally made of mud.
But they belong together because today is about technology, and we usually think that means, microchips or AI.
Right.
But technology is just a tool to optimize the human experience. So we're looking at a chemical technology that's designed to speed us up, to restore our focus, and an ancient ceramic technology that's designed to slow us down and, deepen our sensory experience.
We are hacking our eyes, and then we are hacking our dinner. I'm ready. And frankly, looking at these FDA docs, I'm really hoping I can finally stop buying those 3 packs of reading glasses from the pharmacy.
Well, let's start there then, because the news is fresh. As of January 29th, 2026, the FDA approved Yuvezzi.
This is the drop from 10 Point Therapeutics, and the target is presbyopia.
Which is just the clinical term for that trombone arm scenario. It's not really a disease, it's more of a mechanical failure. As you age, the lens of your eye just gets stiffer. It loses the flexibility to change shape and focus on things up close. It affects, 128 million Americans?
So I was reading through the mechanism of action here, and I really expected it to be something that softens the lens, like a moisturizer for your eyeball. But it's not doing that at all, is it?
No, and that's the big misconception. You can't really unstiffen the lens, not yet anyway. Yuvezzi just ignores the lens entirely. It hacks the pupil.
It hacks the pupil.
It creates what's called a pinhole effect.
Okay, the pinhole effect. Let's break this down because I feel like I use this intuitively without knowing the physics behind it. If I lose my glasses, I squint, and suddenly things get a little sharper.
That is exactly the physics at play. When you squint, or if you make a tiny hole with your fingers to look through, you are blocking out all the stray rays of light. You're only letting the central focused rays hit your retina. It increases what photographers call the depth of field.
So you're basically manually stopping down the aperture of your eye camera.
You are. Yuvezzi just does it chemically, so you don't have to walk around squinting at everybody. It uses an ingredient called carbachol at a 2.75% concentration.
Carbachol.
It's a potent cholinergic agent. Its only job is to tell the iris sphincter muscle to contract.
So it shrinks the pupil. Okay, this is where I started getting skeptical reading the reports. We've had drops that shrink pupils before, right? We had Foodie a few years ago. And I remember people complaining about 2 things. 1, they didn't last long enough for a workday. And 2, they made your eyes incredibly red.
And that is the crucial context. The red eye issue, that's ocular hyperemia, was a massive barrier. When you drop a cholinergic agent into the eye, it can cause vasodilation. The blood vessels expand.
Okay.
So you end up with 20/20 near vision, but you look like you have pink eye or you haven't slept in 3 days.
Which, for a lifestyle drug, that's a complete deal breaker. You're doing this to look younger and more capable, not sickly.
That's why the second ingredient in Yuvezzi is the real game changer. It contains brimonidine tartrate.
And this is the synergy section of the FDA filing I was looking at.
Right. Brimonidine is an alpha-adrenergic agonist. In plain English, it's a vasoconstrictor. It clamps down on those surface blood vessels. So while the carbachol is shrinking the pupil to help you see, the brimonidine is actively whitening the eye to keep you looking normal.
So it's covering the tracks of the first drug.
It's actually better than that. It's helping the first drug work. The eye is sort of a tug of war. You have muscles that want to constrict the pupil and muscles that want to dilate it.
Okay.
Brimonidine actually relaxes the dilator muscle, so it stops the eye from fighting back against the carbachol.
So it's a tag team. Carbachol holds the door shut,
Right.
and brimonidine stops the other guy from pushing it open.
That dual action is what pushed the duration numbers in the BRIO-II clinical trials. And this is the statistic that really matters. The effect lasts up to 10 hours.
See, that's the aha moment for me. BRIO-I was, what, 4 to 6 hours? Maybe.
Right?
That's half a workday.
Right.
If I put drops in at 8 a.m. and I can't read my email by 2 p.m., I'm just going to wear glasses.
Yeah.
But 10 hours, that covers the commute, the meetings, the drive home.
Theoretically, yeah. The data showed it starts working in about 30 minutes, and then you get a sustained 3-line improvement on the reading chart for most of the day, and crucially, without messing up your distance vision.
That was my other worry. If I turn my eye into a pinhole camera,
Yeah.
doesn't that mess up my peripheral vision or my ability to drive?
It doesn't ruin distance vision, no, but there is a physics trade-off.
Right.
A smaller hole lets in less light, period. The safety labeling is very clear about this. Do not drive at night.
Right.
And just be careful in dim environments. Your eyes are physically taking in less illumination.
So if I'm driving down a dark country road at midnight, I want my pupils wide open, not pinned shut.
Absolutely. And there's one more safety warning we probably shouldn't just gloss over. There is a rare risk of retinal tears or detachment.
Oh.
When you stimulate that ciliary muscle to contract, it pulls on the internal structures of the eye. If your retina is already a bit fragile, that tug could be a problem.
But in the 12-month safety cohort, which I noticed was the longest study ever done for this kind of drop, did they actually see any detachments?
In the trial itself, no. They reported no serious treatment-related adverse events, but the mechanism suggests the risk is, it's not zero, it's something to talk to a doctor about.
Got it. Still, looking at the market, this feels like the correction of that first generation. BRIO-I was the beta test. Yuvezzi feels like the actual production release.
It's optimization. 10-point therapeutics looked at the biological constraints, redness, duration, muscle resistance, and they just engineered a chemical cocktail to bypass them. They're essentially selling you time.
That's a great way to put it. You are buying 10 hours of seamless visual processing. You don't have to stop, find your glasses, wipe them, put them on, take them off to look at a presentation.
All that friction.
All that friction is gone.
But the question is, what do you do with that friction-free time? If we optimize our biology to be hyper-efficient, do we just end up doing more work?
Or do we use that visual clarity to focus on something that refuses to be rushed?
Whoa.
Which brings us to the other stack on the desk. Because while Yuvezzi is about speed and precision, our second topic is about mud and patience.
We are going to Sorkun, a village in the Eskişehir province of Turkey.
And we are talking about the güveç.
The güveç. Now, this can be a little confusing for beginners because the word refers to two things at the same time. It's the name of the vessel, the clay pot itself,
Okay.
and it's the name of the stew you cook inside of it.
It's like casserole. The dish is the pan. But this is not Pyrex. We're talking about earthenware that's been used in the Balkans and Anatolia for centuries.
Yeah, and the terminology shifts as you move across the map. In Bulgaria, it's güveç. In Greece, it's Yuvezzi. But the technology is always consistent. It's unglazed or maybe partially glazed clay.
I have to ask, though, in a world where we have, triple ply copper core stainless steel and instant pots that cook a stew in 20 minutes,
Yeah.
why are we messing around with heavy, breakable mud pots? Is it just nostalgia?
It's definitely not just nostalgia. It comes down to thermodynamics. You mentioned the Instant Pot.
Yeah.
That works by forcing heat into the food with pressure. Metal pots work by conduction. The bottom gets really hot. The sides stay cooler. You get hot spots. You get scorching.
And clay is different.
Completely different. Clay is an insulator, not just a conductor. It absorbs the heat slowly and then it radiates it. It surrounds the food in this uniform thermal embrace. But the real magic is the porosity.
The pores. This is the part that fascinated me, the idea that the pot breathes.
It breathes. Earthenware creates this really unique moisture exchange. As the food heats up, the water inside turns to steam. In a metal pot, that steam hits the lid, condenses, and just rains back down. It can make things soggy.
Or if the lid is loose, it just escapes and your food dries out.
Correct. But in a güveç, the porous walls absorb some of that moisture and they hold it. Then, as the pot creates its own little microclimate, it releases that steam back gently. It cooks the food in its own juices. The guides we read were very clear. For a lot of recipes, you add little to no extra water.
That explains the flavor profile. The sources kept using this one Turkish word, toprak.
Toprak. It translates to soil or earth. It's the specific, well, the taste signature of clay cooking. The food tastes grounded. It picks up minerals and an earthy aroma you just can't get from stainless steel.
But there's a pretty big barrier to entry here. You can't just buy a güveç on Amazon, unbox it, and throw it on the stove.
Yeah.
There's a seasoning ritual that honestly sounded a bit like alchemy.
It is alchemy, and if you skip this, you will ruin the pot. Raw clay is thirsty. If you cook with it right away, it might suck all the moisture out of your food, or worse, the thermal shock will just crack it.
So walk me through the flour trick. I've seasoned cast iron with oil, but I've never seasoned a pot with go.
So this is specific to these porous pots.
Yeah.
Step 1 is you soak the entire thing pot and lid in water for at least 24 hours. You have to hydrate the clay. But step 2 is the sealant. You fill the pot with water and you add a handful of flour, wheat, barley, chickpea, whatever starch you have on hand.
And you boil it.
Gently. You bring it to a simmer. As the water heats up, the starch granules explode. They gelatinize. And because the water is expanding into the pores of the clay, it carries that gelatinized starch with it.
So you're essentially spackling the microscopic cracks of the pot with edible glue.
That's a perfect visual for it. You're creating this non-toxic organic sealant inside the walls of the pot itself. It closes the biggest pores so the pot doesn't leak, but it keeps the smallest ones open so it can still breathe.
And if you don't do this,
Your stew's gonna taste like dust. You really need that buffer between the ancient mud and your dinner.
so once you've done the alchemy, what are we eating?
Yeah.
Because the recipes in these sources were making me incredibly hungry.
The standard is turlu, which is sort of a vegetable medley. You've got eggplant, okra, beans, potatoes. But the real showstopper is the testi kebabi.
This is the one that comes with a hammer.
It does. Testi kebabi is cooked in this jug-shaped clay pot with a really narrow neck. You stuff the meat and peppers inside, and then you seal the top with a lump of bread dough.
So it's a hermetically sealed pressure cooker made of earth.
Exactly. And to serve it, they bring it to the table, and the waiter literally cracks the neck of the pot off with a mallet.
That's amazing.
It's incredible theater. But just think about that sensory experience. That food has been sealed for hours. The moment that clay cracks open, this explosion of aroma just hits the table. It's not just dinner, it's an event.
I also want to give a nod to the Greek version, the Yuvezzi, because I noticed a specific ingredient difference there.
The cinnamon.
Yes. Cinnamon in a meat stew. To an American palate, that screams dessert, but in Greek cooking, it's completely savory.
It's a hallmark of the region. Yuvezzi is usually lamb and orzo pasta. The cinnamon and nutmeg, they add this warmth that kind of bridges the gap between the gaminess of the lamb and the acidity of the tomatoes. And because it's a one-pot clay dish, the orzo doesn't get boiled in water, it cooks right in the lamb fat and the tomato juice.
That sounds unbelievably rich. But, you know, aside from the ingredients, what I really loved was the social aspect of this technology. We think of cooking as this private thing in our private kitchens, but the history of the güveç is totally communal.
Right, the commercial bakery tradition. In towns like Beypazarı, you didn't light your own oven in the summer. It was just too hot and fuel was expensive.
Sure.
So you'd prep your pot at home, chop your onions, season your meat, and then you'd send it to the town bakery.
Because the baker has had his wood oven going since 4 in the morning making bread.
Exactly. The bread comes out, the oven is slowly cooling down, and that residual heat is absolutely perfect for a 6-hour stew. You just drop off your pot, you go to work, and you pick it up on the way home.
There's that detail about the delivery boys that I loved. They would ride bicycles with these scorching hot clay pots balanced on their heads.
On a cushioned pad called a simit. I mean, can you imagine the balance required? But also, imagine the smell of that town at 5 p.m. Dozens of clay pots just traveling through the streets, trailing steam.
It's a beautiful image, and it really speaks to how protective people are of these traditions. We have to mention the mayor.
The mayor of Beypazarı, he actually filed a patent for the town's specific güveç recipe.
He patented a stew.
He wanted to protect the official version. And apparently the locals joke that if they want to add an extra pepper or change the spice blend, they have to close their kitchen curtains so the stew police don't catch them violating the patent.
I love that. It shows that even with low-tech mud pots, there are standards. There's a right way and a wrong way.
And that brings us right back to the tension we started with. We have Yuvezzi on one hand and the güveç on the other.
The fast and the slow.
But look at the mechanism. Yuvezzi works by creating a pinhole. It constricts the light to create focus. The clay pot works by creating a sealed chamber. It constricts the heat to create flavor.
They're both about containment.
They are. They're both about defining a boundary to produce a better result.
But they serve such opposite ends of our lives. I feel like Yuvezzi is the tool we use to survive the modern world. We have to read the spreadsheet, check the phone, be efficient units of production for 10 hours a day.
It's a survival tool for an information economy. If you can't see the data, you can't function. So we use advanced chemistry to optimize our biology. We force the eye to perform.
But the clay pot, that's what we should be optimizing for.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's a real risk that if we get these eye drops, we'll just use that extra visual endurance to read more emails or scroll more feeds.
Right. Great, I can see my phone perfectly at 9 p.m. I guess I'll answer more Slack messages.
And that would be a tragedy. The whole goal of buying time with efficiency should be to spend it on something deliberately inefficient, like soaking a pot for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like sealing a lid with dough. Like waiting 5 hours for a lamb shoulder to just collapse into tenderness.
It's the difference between seeing and perceiving. Yuvezzi helps you see the text. The clay pot helps you perceive the toprak, the earth.
And, if you use the drops, you'll actually be able to see the texture of that clay. You'll see the steam rising. You won't have to trombone arm the Teski kebaba.
That's the synthesis.
Yeah.
Use the high-tech science to appreciate the low-tech art.
Use the brimonidine to enjoy the brisket. Or the lamb, I guess, in this case.
There it is. So here is our challenge to you. Go check your prescription. See if the science can help you focus. But then find something slow to look at. Don't waste that clarity on a screen.
Find some clay, cook something slow, and taste the earth.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you clearly next time.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share.